Chisom, so it's true.
No, wait, it's not what you think.
Bro, calm down. Let's explain. I see it with my own eyes.
He pushed open the gate of his own house, the house he had built with 8 years of sweat, loneliness, and sacrifice in a foreign land. And from inside laughter, his wife's laughter, and a man's voice he would recognize anywhere in the world, because that voice belonged to his best friend. Emeka stood at that gate for a long time, his traveling bag on the ground beside him, the African sun pressing down on his shoulders, and everything he had worked for turning to ash in his chest. Before we go any further, if you are watching this story, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It really means everything to us. Thank you. Now, let us go back to the beginning. Emeka Okafor was not a complicated man. He grew up in the village of Oguta, a quiet community in Imo State, where the morning began with the sound of birds and the smell of firewood, where everyone knew your name and your grandmother's name, and where a man's word was still worth something. He was the first son of his widowed mother, a woman who had sold firewood and farm produce to put him through secondary school. Emeka did not forget that. He was hard-working, quiet, and deeply loyal. The kind of man who showed up, who remembered birthdays, who would walk 3 miles in the rain to check on a sick neighbor. He was not the richest man in Oguta, but he was one of the most respected. And then he met Chisom. Chisom was from the next village. She had a laugh that could fill an entire compound and eyes that held a warmth that Emeka had never seen before in his life. They married young, the way people do when they are certain. And they made a plan. Emeka sat with Chisom the night before he left for Dubai. A candle between them. The village outside quiet and dark. "I will work," he said. "I will send money. You manage the construction. In 8 years, we will have a house that our children will be proud of." Chisom held his hand. "Come back to me, Emeka. Always," he said. He meant it. He boarded that plane carrying nothing but faith. Dubai was not what Emeka expected. It was loud and bright and enormously indifferent. Nobody there cared about his name or his village or his late father's reputation. What they cared about was work. And Emeka worked. He worked construction sites in the blistering heat. He worked double shifts when other men rested. He ate simple food and wore the same shoes for 2 years because every naira he did not spend was one more brick in his house back home. He called Chisom every single evening. He called his best friend Dayo too. Dayo was the one who had introduced him to Chisom. Dayo was the godfather at their traditional wedding. Dayo was the man who drove Emeka to the airport the morning he left and said, "Brother, I will look after everything. I promise you." Emeka trusted him completely. Why would he not? This was not just a friend. This was a brother by choice. 20 years of friendship, 20 years of shared secrets, shared meals, shared everything. From Dubai, the updates came regularly. Dayo sending photos of the foundation, then the walls, then the roof going up. Chisom on video call, pointing at the new tiles, excited. "Emeka, it is becoming so beautiful. You will not believe it when you see it." Emeka would smile. Tired and lonely in his small rented room in Dubai, he would smile at his phone screen and tell himself it was all worth it. He did not see what was happening slowly, quietly on the other side of that screen. It started with proximity. Dayo was always there, managing the workers, checking the materials, sitting with Chisom in the evenings to discuss the next phase of construction. They told themselves it was friendship. They told themselves Emeka would understand. They told themselves many things. And perhaps at the beginning, it really was just friendship. But loneliness is a dangerous thing, and 8 years is a very long time. Emeka noticed small things here and there. Chisom sometimes sounded distracted on calls. She started making excuses for why Dayo had not called that week. When Emeka asked direct questions, the answers were always smooth, always ready. He told himself he was being paranoid. He told himself he trusted these people. He turned back to work. He sent more money. He kept building. In his 8th year, Emeka packed his bags. The house was complete. Chisom had confirmed it. Dayo had confirmed it. Everyone had confirmed it. He had done what he promised. Now it was time to come home. He told Chisom he was coming. She said she was excited. Her voice sounded strange on that final call, but he was too tired and too happy to investigate a feeling. He boarded the flight. He landed at Lagos Airport, and nobody came to pick him up. He called Chisom. No answer. He called Dayo. No answer. He stood in the arrivals hall with his travelling bag and the small photograph of his late father tucked carefully in his breast pocket. He waited for an hour. Nobody came. So Emeka took a bus, then a shared vehicle, then a motorcycle. Then he walked the last 2 kilometers into Oguta on his own 2 feet, the same feet that had stood on Dubai construction sites for 8 years, his bag dragging at his arm, the village road familiar and red beneath him. He passed neighbors as he walked. He noticed the way they looked at him. Nobody rushed to greet him. Nobody shouted with the usual excitement of a son of the soil returning from abroad. There were looks exchanged between people. Women who looked away. Men who suddenly found reasons to face another direction. One old woman, Mama Nkechi, caught his eyes, and in her eyes he saw it. Not joy, pity. Emeka reached his gate, his beautiful new gate, freshly painted, exactly the way he had chosen it from a catalogue in Dubai. And from inside the compound, he heard laughter, his wife's laughter, and Dayo's voice. He stood at that gate for a long time. Then he set his bag down on the ground. He sat beside it in the dust, his back against the gate, and he called his mother. She picked up on the first ring. Emeka, she said, just his name. The way a mother says a name when she has been carrying a pain she could not share. Mama, he said, how long? A long silence. Emeka, my son. How long, Mama? She cried quietly on the phone. He already knew the answer. He had known, perhaps, for longer than he wanted to admit. The whole village knows? He asked. I am sorry, my son, she whispered. I did not know how to tell you. I hoped maybe you would come back and it would stop. The whole village knew. He was the last person on earth to find out. The man who paid for all of it. He sat in the dust outside his own gate and cried the way men cry when no one is watching. Quietly. Completely. The kind of crying that comes from the deepest part of you where dignity has no power. He cried for the 8 years. He cried for the double shifts. He cried for every lonely night in that Dubai room, staring at photos of a house being built, convinced he was building a future. He cried for his father, who had told him once, Emeka, choose people carefully. The ones you let close will either carry you or bury you. He cried for a long time. Then he wiped his face, stood up, and pushed open the gate. They were in the sitting room, Chisom and Dio, sitting together the way two people sit when they have long stopped pretending. The moment Emeka walked in, the air changed. Chisom jumped to her feet. Her hand went to her mouth. Emeka! Dio stood slowly. His face was a mix of guilt and the particular defiance of a man who has crossed a line and decided, since the line is crossed, he might as well keep walking. Emeka looked at both of them. He looked at his sitting room, his tiles, his ceiling fan, the paint he had chosen himself, his house. He said nothing for a very long time. Then, very quietly, "Where is my father's photograph?" Chisom blinked. "What? The photograph? The one I framed before I left. Where is it?" Chisom pointed, confused, toward the small shelf near the window. Emeka walked to it. He picked up the photograph, his father's face serious and kind, staring back at him. He turned around. He looked at Chisom one last time. He looked at Deo one last time. 20 years of friendship, 8 years of marriage, 8 years of sacrifice. And he said simply, "I see you both clearly now." Then he picked up his bag and he walked out. Chisom ran after him. "Emeka, please." "Let me explain. It was not planned. These things happen. Please." Dio did not follow. Emeka walked to the gate without looking back. "Emeka," Chisom was crying now. "Please, don't go like this. We can talk." He stopped at the gate. He turned once. 8 years, he said. His voice was steady. "I gave 8 years to give you a home. I ate nothing so you could have everything, and you gave my home to my best friend." He looked at her, not with anger, with something heavier than anger. "I don't hate you, Chisom," he said. "I don't have the energy to hate you, but I am done." He turned and walked into the village road. He did not look back again. Emeka went to his mother's house that night. She fed him. She held his hand. She said nothing, because sometimes a mother's presence is the only language that reaches the broken places. The next morning, he called a lawyer in the city. He sold the house through that lawyer and never once set foot back in it. He never called Chisom. He never called Dio. Some people in the village said he should fight. Some said he should forgive. Some said he was foolish to let the house go. Emeka listened to none of them. He had learned something sitting in that dust outside his own gate. Some things, once broken, do not deserve to be repaired. They deserve to be replaced. He took the money from the house sale. He moved to Port Harcourt. He started a small logistics company with 2 vehicles, then 4, then 10. He was still the same man, quiet, hard-working, deeply loyal. But now he was loyal only to people who had earned it. 5 years later, on a Saturday morning in Port Harcourt, Emeka Okafor married a woman named Adaze. She was a secondary school teacher who laughed loudly and prayed even louder. She had known what it meant to struggle. She had known what it meant to wait. And when Emeka told her his story, she did not flinch. "You didn't lose everything," she told him. "You just lost the wrong things." The wedding day was loud and full. His mother danced until her wrapper nearly came loose. His colleagues from the logistics company sprayed money in the air. Neighbors who had never met him before joined the celebration simply because joy has a way of pulling people in. Emeka stood in the middle of it all, his father's photograph tucked in his breast pocket the way it had always been, and he felt something settle in his chest. Peace. Real peace. Not the peace of forgetting. The peace of a man who has come through fire and is still standing. Back in Oguta, things had not gone well. The house that Emeka sold was bought by a new family. Dio and Chisholm had moved in together, but a house built on betrayal has no foundation. They fought. They separated within 3 years. Chisholm went back to her parents. Dio left the village, and the people of Oguta, who had watched all of it from the beginning, nodded slowly among themselves. Because in village life, they have always known one thing. The ground remembers every seed that is planted in it. And this is the lesson. Loyalty is not just a feeling. It is a choice you make every single day. Emeka was not perfect, but he chose right. He chose to keep his promise even when it cost him everything. And what he lost in that gate, that house, that marriage, that friendship was simply space being made for what he truly deserved. If you are working hard for someone right now, keep going. Not for them, for yourself. Because what you build with honest hands cannot be taken from you forever. The wrong people may sit in it for a season, but everything returns to where it belongs. Every single time. Thank you for watching. Now tell us, if you were Emeka, what would you have done? Would you have walked away quietly like he did? Or would you have done something different? Let us know in the comments below. And if this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. There are more stories coming, and every single one of them is worth staying for.